All right. How's everybody doing? You ready? This is like nap time, right? So hopefully I can keep you going, keep you alert and awake, get you through the afternoon lull. We're going to talk about decorating. So how many here want to learn about a little decorating, want some tips, tricks, ideas? Uh-oh. Okay, that's a lot of you. No. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been leading our construction team. This coming VBS will be my 20th year leading that. Just in about a week or two here, I'll celebrate my 19th year of being the children's pastor at our church in Columbus. And so when I started, literally the guys at my church had to teach me how to use a drill, okay? Should have paid more attention to Grandpa, you know? But I really didn't know how to do anything. And as you'll see here later, I helped lead building a 20-foot tall, three-dimensional ziggurat that we could walk in and out of. And I did have people, when the kids weren't around, climb to the top of it, okay? So, and we were able to do that, not me, but God has blessed our church with a lot of very talented people, both painting, construction guys, home builders, carpenters, things like that. And so we're just so thankful that God has given us the team that allows us to do what we do. But don't let what you see when I show pictures of sort of our decorations and our sets and all of this stuff, don't let that intimidate you and think, how can we ever do that? That's not what this is about, okay? I kind of like to think of it like this. When I go to Home Depot and I walk around, I could get overwhelmed at all the stuff that I need to do at home. But I'm only going to do a few things, right? And then maybe next year I'll try a few different things and stuff like that. Or maybe for you it's Hobby Lobby, you know. You go to Hobby Lobby and you're just like, look at all this stuff I can do. But you can't do it all at once, and that's fine. So we want to try to give you as many ideas as we can. We kind of go over the top with how we decorate, and we try to incorporate as many ideas as we can think of into our decorations, take a bunch of pictures of it, take videos of everything we do. We put those videos on that Answers VBS YouTube page. Most important thing you'll see, if you don't get enough of listening to me today, you can go to YouTube and listen to me for hours, okay? But we go through every decoration we did in great detail there on YouTube, how we built some of the stuff we did. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to start off with a little bit of the how-tos, okay? Some of the essential building things that we do, decorating tips and tricks that we do that work every year, okay? And then we'll finish up by going through some pictures of what we did and just explaining some of those things as we go through. So my main responsibility is making sure that our set is up and going. Our set, how we do it, of course, you know, I see these scene setters and I'm like, that would be awesome. We're a year ahead, so they're not ready for us. And so we do it all ourselves. We make most of our set is actually made out of cardboard. Great story. After a couple years of going to a local art supply store and buying 4x8 sheets of cardboard through them that they would ship, and we paid all this money, some guys like in our church is like, I own a cardboard factory. I'm like, what? That's the greatest news I've ever heard. So he started giving us these 4x8 sheets of cardboard. The business has changed hands, but we still go to this local cardboard factory and pay for our cardboard now, and we're able to get it in 4x8 sheets. You can buy large sheets of cardboard online through, I think it's a Uline, it's called, okay? Or, there might be a cardboard factory near you that you don't even know about because the pizza, if you know somebody who runs a pizza shop, ask them where they get their boxes. If there's a local place like that, that's because when the guy who took me to his took me to his box factory one day and showed me around, and he showed me how he makes his pizza boxes for this pizza place and this pizza place and that pizza place, and they're able to get us large sheets of cardboard like that. So you can go online. Local art supply stores might be able to order it in for you. Another tip would be if you know like sign shops, they might have a connection with somebody who can get you large sheets of cardboard. So we get these large sheets of cardboard in, and we paint them. And so you can kind of see what we got going on there. This is our gymnasium. We actually locked down our gym for about 3 to 4 weeks before in front of VBS, and it is set up like this for that entire period of time. We put plastic everywhere, and there still gets paint on the carpet. But you know, we do our very best to do that every year. Try to keep it off the carpet, but it still happens. We cover the floors in 6 mil roll plastic. We get 10-foot wide rolls, 20-foot wide rolls. You get those at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're 100 feet long. They spread out, and that keeps our floors as safe as they can. And we set up in our gymnasium, we set up a bunch of different stations so that different people can do different jobs. We have as you saw in that first picture, there's some areas, especially the first beginning, where we're rolling out the base colors on that, and then we start transitioning over to some tables and stuff. I'm a rollout kind of guy. That's about as much painting skill as I have, and it's like, here's a bucket of green, make that piece of cardboard green. I'm like, good, I got it. I can handle that, but we've got other people who can paint like llamas, you know, like this beauty right over here. I couldn't do that, but we've got some great people who can. And so we set up a station for cutters where they cut all the cardboard out after it's been. We've got different people, different skill levels, different abilities that they can, so everybody's able to come and participate. We spend about 3 weeks, like I said, painting our stuff. One of our favorite tools that we use, and you'll learn about this as you're reading your decorating decisions in your different manuals, is an overhead projector. Sometimes these are hard to find nowadays because nobody uses them, right? Because it's all video projectors. We buy every one that we find at a thrift store. I have 6 overhead projectors. I use 1 or 2 a year, but I'm one day they're not going to be able to be found. So I just snag them up and hang on to them. And so what we're able to do is run the patterns onto transparency paper, which you can get at your office supply store through the copier, and then put those transparencies, and we can do it here. You see us doing with text, but we also do it with our animals and other designs that we are doing. So overhead projectors are one of our favorite tools to use, make something small really big, and it's not high tech. You don't have to do a whole lot of prep, and it really, you're trying to do giant letters. You don't have to worry about using rulers and stuff like that. We get it pretty close just by projecting and outlining either with Sharpie or with pencil and stuff there. One of the biggest questions that we get, that I always get asked for other folks who paint cardboard, if you see here in the picture, the cardboard's curling up on the edges, right? Anybody try that before and your cardboard curls? Yes, and the question is, how do you keep your cardboard from curling? You can't keep your cardboard from curling, but there's a few things that we do after we paint it to try to minimize the damage, if you will. One trick that I don't do is, if you really want it to be super flat, like you've got a really nice piece that you want to be super flat, paint the other side. And when you paint the other side, it'll take the curl out. We don't do that much because that's a lot more time. What we end up doing is just our maintenance guys love this part. We take every table in the building. Every table in the building, right? We lay our cardboard in stacks of 10, 15 sheets face down, and we put the tables on top of it. Then we go around finding anything else we can find that's heavy and set it on top of the tables. Okay, so here's my buddy Jordan rolling tables to flatten our cardboard after it is. And it doesn't perfectly flatten it, but after a few days, it kind of does take the curl out. Truth is, the thicker the cardboard, the more it curls. The thinner the cardboard, the less it curls. It's a little bit of a trade-off because then your cardboard's flimsier and stuff like that, but it's less curly. And then when we take our cardboard and attach it to things, like you see this piece here, we always use screws to attach our cardboard to stuff rather than staples. And there's a couple reasons why we do that. One, the screws have a big head on them, and the staples, the cardboard tends to if it's curly, that curl will just pop through that staple, and then you got to staple it again, and then it'll pop through, and then you got to staple again, or all you're going like crazy. And the other thing is, I like to reuse all of my materials next year, and if you put a whole bunch of staples in there, then you got to get your pair of pliers and pull out every single staple, or you just take your drill and go zip, 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 and they're all out. And so it ends up helping to take the curl out as well as making our cleanup time a little bit faster, okay? And so those are some tips when you're working with cardboard there. I'm not, like I said before, I'm not a great painter per se to tell you how to make something look like this amazing, but we have some great ones at our church. And actually, the lady who designs our sets and implements the entire painting process, administrates all our volunteers, comes up with all the materials that we need. Her name is Chris, and she has recorded some videos for us as well over the years, okay? So you can go onto the Answers YouTube page, and you will find, of course, this is a great website. Make sure you get there, youtube.com/AnswersVBS. You'll see all of the ones that are specific to Incredible Race, but you can also go back. The old years are still on there, and there's a lot of tips and tricks on there about painting and how to do stuff really well. So this year we built our big ziggurat. So let me just show you a quick clip of Chris as she's explaining some tips and techniques for painting like a stone texture.
My name is Chris, and I'm going to show you today how to do some stonework painting sides for your ziggurat. So we want our ziggurat to be very textural, to look somewhat like stone or stucco. So these are going to be some really awesome, easy techniques to help you out. So I suggest that you get a Wall Magic double roller paint system. And the great thing about those is your paint is divided, you can quickly get started. Now we are using a diamond pattern. So you can kind of see that diamond pattern, and really we just got whatever pattern we could locate on the internet. So it's whatever you can access. Any pattern is going to look awesome. And what you do is you come in, we're going to work this bottom half of our cardboard piece of art here, and you come in and you start making crisscrosses. Now, we don't want to cover up all of our diamond patterns, so you're going to leave some of that cardboard showing through, and it just helps to create a nice texture. And we're going to work our cardboard about 1/3 of a hunk of cardboard at a time. This is 4 foot by 8 foot cardboard. My name
How
is
many of you would
Chris,
say, even if I watched the whole video, I still couldn't do it? Okay, I couldn't either, but you probably have somebody who could. And so, I brought along some things that Chris uses. You saw there that she has the Wall Magic system. This tray has been around VBS as long as I have. Okay, it's got layers of paint on it. We've been using it for years. It's divided so you can do the two colors. I didn't have the rollers, but I did find one of the boxes if you want to come up and see exactly what the Wall Magic looks like. And so you can Google these and find them online. There's all different types of patterns. In order to get some other cool things with different textures, you can buy all different types. Actually, I do have one of the rollers here. This is not the diamond pattern that she was using, but it's got a different pattern to it. If you were doing like a smaller stone, this roller it's almost like little pebbles all over it. And so this is like fantastic stuff. I didn't even know this stuff existed, but you can get all different kinds, and these are heavy-duty rubber. They will last you for years of using these at VBS. They even sell, this is a sponge roller, and so it gives a really cool texture as well. And then for certain things, we just use hand sponging to shade in areas where we'll come and just kind of, not really here, but you can just kind of dab a texture and sponges. So we have lots of that going on. This is one of my favorite. You can't hardly find these anymore because they don't really work for cleaning. So they're hard to find anymore because nobody sells these, but you can occasionally find an obscure online store that'll sell you these in bulk. But, by dipping feather dusters in paint, they leave a really cool shady texture, shaded, not shady. I what are we doing? Yeah, so you can do a lot of cool textures, and they're very fast, and these actually cost about $1, and then just throw them away at the end when you're done. So there's lots of great videos, both this year and in previous years, of when you're going back through that YouTube page to find some of that stuff. I would encourage you that there's certain things that we make that are good to reuse every year. I love to try to keep as much as I can to reuse from year to year. Little simple things like we like to keep as many animals as we can, because we never know, a couple years down the road, those animals might work into an upcoming theme. Things like grass and flowers and rocks, okay, and trees. So things like that might come back again. So try to hang on to those things. And if something that you know you're going to use a lot, then I would suggest, instead of painting it on like cardboard, that you use a more durable material. We love to use Luan. I brought just a little sample of Luan. This is really thin plywood, okay? You'll see that we'll talk more about that as we talk about some of the set stuff. It's just thin plywood, and Chris, our designer, loved cows, and so for about 15 years, she incorporated a cow somehow into like our hallway decorations. And we got tired of making new cows every year, so we made them out of wood. So we had, and they were always kind of thematically dressed and stuff like that. Those went away a couple years ago, but it was something that we knew we wanted every year, and so we wanted to make it more durable, and you can paint that really well and keep that from year to year as well. So now we'll chat a little bit about building the sets, which is really one of my fortes. We've got this beautifully amazing painted cardboard, but it's curly, it's flimsy. How do we make it into something big and beautiful, and something that the kids are really going to enjoy? For us, our construction team of about 15 to 20 folks takes about 3 or 4 days for us to build our set. Across the front of our worship center. We usually do that in the evening mostly. A few volunteers come during the day. Some of our retirees will come during the day and do some preliminary stuff. But most of our folks come at about 6 o'clock at night. We feed them dinner, and then we go in and start building the set. And so every year we have some very key materials that we use all the time. One of my favorite things to use is what is called a stage flat. That's a fancy term that Broadway stuff uses. And really all it is a piece of that thin Luan with a wooden frame around it. I actually brought one with me here that I hid behind the table. Here's a stage flat. Okay, anybody allowed to put anything they want on the church walls? And no hands. Okay, but what if you could build your own wall right in front of the church walls and then do anything you want to it? Isn't that great? So that's what stage flats are. So just a simple, these are 2x3 frames, okay? And then a piece of Luan on the front. When we started using this system, at first we started painting our sets onto the flats, and then we realized that that our painters, it was really heavy for them to pick them up and move them when they needed to. Was also then I got to do a base coat of paint before I paint the paint that I want to paint, and so that's when we just said, let's just stick with the cardboard. This is, I think, I don't know. This paint's been on there forever. It's like Kingdom Chronicles or something we used this for a long time ago. Any Kingdom Chroniclers out there? All right! The little glitter diamonds and stuff like that. I remember that was also, the glitter diamonds is one of the reasons why we stopped using this. I was taking a belt sander and trying to sand off the glitter that was, and then we're like, hey, let's just put cardboard on top of it. And so, you build these, and they last a really long time if you build them well. And so we just build the frame. I like to both staple and glue the Luan to the frame, and that'll just help it to stand up and last longer. So we have stacks of these in our garage. Most of them are 4 foot by 8 foot, because that's the size of the Luan sheets that you get at your hardware store. And then so we can build walls out of this. The stuff that you have up here, that's how that is done. We have different shapes and sizes, but basically you put up the walls, and then you can attach your scene setters to it. If you do the scene setter way, you can attach your cardboard or whatever material that you make your stuff out of. You build the wall, and you can do anything you want to that wall, and nobody gets mad at you because you're going to tear it back down later, and it goes together really quickly. What we use a ton of, these are in the theater world called stage jacks. Okay, they're just a little leg bracket, and we have, I don't even know how many of these we have. We probably have like 200 of these in all different sizes. We have them from about this big all the way up to, I have some that are 10 feet tall for when we build really tall items and everything like that. And these, once you screw these onto the back of your stage flats, and then you have a leg there that the wall stands on. So that's what we've done right here with this set. We've got the jacks behind there attached to the flats, and then we put some weights here so that things don't tip forward on anyone. And that's just, we use these for everything. I've actually got some behind the llama right here. I've got one right here behind his head, and just sitting on the piano. But we'll use tall ones to hold up animals, rocks, trees, things like that. So we use these for all different kinds of stuff. And so, again, we make a few every year, and then they last for a really long time. But they're a great little thing to have to just keep your stage building going on. And then this other materials that we use a ton of is 2x4s and 1x4s and 1x3s and 1x2s and 2x2s and all that good stuff, and we just reuse that from year to year and really don't have to buy much lumber. We just kind of keep collecting it and stuff like that. And so when you're building sets, one of the big things that I love is when you build stuff from the ground up, because, and we do a combination of things in our sets. So the middle of our stage, we have really tall ceilings, and everything's built from the ground up. But on the sides of our stage, we like to hang some stuff from the ceiling. And so we've learned a few tricks over the years. Some of my favorite things to use when we're hanging stuff is the ceiling grid hook. So we use these in decorating our hallways, classrooms, and even our set. You might have seen these. You can get these at the hardware store. You can order them in bulk online. But if you have a hanging ceiling with like the ceiling tiles, these just clip on the metal work, and then they give you a little hook so that you can tie decorations onto them. So we use a ton of these throughout our classrooms especially, but also on our main set. One of my new favorite things that we started using a couple years ago is this little system called a quick wire. Okay, this is a KL100. So I've got a few of these here, and so what these are, it's for hanging heavier duty stuff. So this is like metal wire. This is steel wire cable. And this can hold like 1,000 pounds. So we don't ever hang anything that weighs 1,000 pounds. We don't really hang anything that weighs more than like 10 pounds, but we know it won't fall on anybody. And then they've got these little sleeves on them, and they're locking sleeves that ratchet. So as you pull the cable up, it locks. These locks can hold, well, they're called KL100s because they can hold 100 pounds in these locks, okay? And so what you can do is you can attach these to items and hang them up, and then if you need to level them, you need to level that item, you just pull your wire down farther to make it, you can make it higher, you can push the little button and make your little item lower until it works perfectly. They're very fast, they're very sturdy and safe, and so they're a great little thing to use. We used to use like picture frame wire or other types of wire, but this allowed us to move a lot faster and to be a little bit safer and to actually make stuff look a little bit better. So that's a little trick that I got a couple of years ago. If that's not in your budget or in your price frame or anything like that, I would suggest a very similar system is just using zip ties. All right? Set builder's best friend right here. Same thing. I used to use fishing line for everything, okay? Hang up a piece of cardboard, buy this heavy-duty fishing line. This can hold 25 pounds, and they sell 50-pound fishing line. Just knocked my flat over. I used to do that, and then it's just kind of it's not terrible. We still use it for certain things, but it just kind of takes some time, and you've got to get it up and get it over what you're doing, and then you got to tie a knot, and then when you're done, it's uneven, so then you got to kind of adjust it and all that stuff. And so by even, looping, using zip ties and stuff like that, if it's a little too low, you just, now it's higher. All right, so it just helps you to level stuff, but you can't go backwards. These things you can go backwards on. Zip ties, you got to cut it off and start again. But I love to use zip ties to help quickly connect stuff when we're hanging it to the ceiling and everything like that. And so one of the things that we've also learned, I forgot one of my items off the stage here. So when we shift onto our hallways and our classrooms, over the years, sometimes when we designed our sets and our decorations, we would do like a bunch of little things. And when you do a bunch of little things, it just takes a really long time. So we've tried to shift over to doing like a little bit of big things. And so we try to do like a full sheet of cardboard rather than a bunch of little circles and stuff like that, because it just saves the time to go hang up one large thing, and it has a big impact than a bunch of small stuff. So as we move into some tips and tricks, some general things for our hallways and classrooms, a lot of the same stuff. I forgot this. I think it's off stage somewhere, so I might grab it in a little bit. But again, we're not allowed to put stuff on the walls, right? So what we have done is we created a way to attach to our, we clip to our ceiling a board, okay? I don't know. Hey, Brenton, would you go over there and see if you find the furring strip with the two eyelets on it? I think I left that over on the side there. So we'll come back to that in a minute. And, I think I left my pegboard over there too, Brenton. Would you grab my pegboard? My lovely assistant, Brenton Hamer, over there. He's going to... He is the next set builder in training, and so he loves to help me build all the sets, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So some of the other stuff that we did is some great classroom decoration ideas, and we'll go through these as we start going through the pictures here in just a moment. We use these ceiling grid hooks to hang up a bunch of these signs. You just print these off the DVD-ROM, print them on cardstock, and it's like very inexpensive, very easy to do. If you have hanging ceilings, but we just clip these all over our classrooms, and there's a bunch of different patterns that you could use. Another little trick that I just learned in the last couple of years, like I said, it's kind of frustrating to use fishing line. I started using floral wire instead of fishing line, because rather than trying to tie a knot, you just twist it real quick and you're done. So that was kind of a helpful little trick for me as we were doing some stuff. And so we've got, just yesterday, this was like a big moment in my life yesterday when we were here setting up and getting ready for stuff. I was introduced to something called Marvelous Tape. Look at all my tape over here. I've got gaff tape, Gorilla Tape, duct tape, painter's tape. I had never heard of Marvelous. Have anybody of you never heard of Marvelous Tape before? It's what all these scene setters are taped to the wall with, okay? And it does not hurt your painted walls, okay? What? Exactly. And so I had never heard of that. The trick that I had been taught was you take painter's tape and put that on the wall first, and then you put your other tape on top of the tape, okay? And then, of course, painter's tape is designed to do that. But now, instead of doing two different types of tape on your wall, this Marvelous Tape, it's in the booklet. It's talked about. It's called Marvelous. Everybody say Marvelous. And I bet it is. So I'm going to order that in bulk really soon here. And so I'm very excited about that. Another thing we reuse in all of our classrooms every year, as Barb and I talked earlier in the teaching session, is we make puppets. We use a puppet stage every year. And so a couple of the things that I run into, and you might do this as well, is I want to keep everything and reuse it next year, but I have nowhere to put it, okay? And so I try to make the stuff fit in as small of a storage area as possible. And so one of the things, we needed 6 puppet stages for 6 of our teaching classrooms, and I'm like, where am I going to keep 6 puppets? There you go. You got it. All right, we'll talk about this in just a moment. Thank you, sir. I decided to make some puppet stages. I went out to the garage and I found a bunch of old Luan that we had painted, and I cut this panel 3 foot by 5 foot, and I cut 2 panels 2 feet by 5 feet, and then, if you're ready to see what's behind the curtain, all right, trust me, it's not that beautiful, but it's great. 2 little stage jacks like I talked about, and we just screw the Luan right into that. Okay, so when I take this apart, I have 3 basically really thin pieces and just stacks on a shelf. Okay, we painted the outside. See, here's one of our old children's choir sets, painted on this one. Okay, and then it goes together really quickly, and then we make something thematic every year that we can put on the front of it. So it goes with our theme, but then we reuse it. It stores away in a very small area. Okay, so what I was wanting to show you guys earlier that I wanted to mention. So we're not allowed to put stuff on our walls, and so we created a system that allows us to put stuff up. And so what we do is just take, this is called a furring strip, sometimes called a 1x2. We put some eyelets on it, and we clip this to our ceiling grid. And we do this all down our walls, and then we can staple stuff to this, okay? So we use this for all different types of things. We'll show you some pictures of that in a little bit. You can zip tie this to your ceiling to make it go a little bit faster. And another great trick that we use, and I'll show you some pictures in a minute too, we use pegboard. If you wanted to do a whole bunch of cool decorations and you don't want to stand on a ladder for an hour connecting a whole bunch of decorations, what we do is sometimes take a little piece of pegboard here while we're sitting in a chair, we tie all our decorations to it and go up and attach this to the ceiling, and it's done in just a minute, okay? Use the ceiling grid hooks and zip ties to do that as well. So Barb's going to come up and join me as we just we're going to jump into specific decorating ideas that we use for Incredible Race. And if you've seen some of the stuff, some of the videos and stuff, you'll recognize a few of these things, perhaps. But one of the great things that we did was we created an airport terminal. This was down by where the kids entered and did their registration for the day. And it was kind of cool. It was really quick and easy. We bought a bunch of flags from different countries and just hung them from the ceiling. We branded that, you can get these signs, but we kind of printed our own that had our church logo on it, and home of 22 beautiful acres. Our pastor always says, God has given us these 22 beautiful acres here, and so we kind of incorporated some of our own stuff from our church in there.
Yes, and you could use much smaller, if you can't
Yes.
buy great big flags, there are patterns for flags in the DVD-ROM. You could have flags everywhere. You're going to notice there are a lot
Yes.
around here. Put them all over the place. But those are from, I think, Amazon, about $4 or $5 each
Yep.
for those great big ones. Even a few make a big impact.
Yeah, and we put some, you might be able to see them there. We had some of those just little foam glider planes hanging, and we
Also
decorated
off of
those
Amazon.
up, all on Amazon, and those going in kind of different directions. You've seen some of these signs as we're hanging around. This was kind of like our departure, and we had that sign above the bathrooms, there, and then the welcome sign in all the different languages. So as the kids entered every day, they came into the airport, they checked in the airport, and then they went out. As they left their check-in areas, then they were traveling to whatever continent we were going to that day. So it's a fun way of decorating one of your hallways or something like that. Next hallway that we did, so then we had about 5?
I think so.
Yeah, we did 5 different hallway, areas that we kind of decorated in different continents. This was our older kids' hallway, and so we did the Asia Far East area, so we focused on like China for these decorations. And some fun things that we did, we used the roll plastic tablecloth, and we put them on top of our lights, and it made the hallway glow red. It doesn't show up real well in that picture, but the hallway was red, lit red for that. bunch of paper lanterns, a fun little paper dragon that we bought on Amazon, and then we painted
Couple landmarks.
yes, some landmarks and stuff like that, just plain black painted on cardboard and hung that up using that fun little curtain rod I showed you. And so it's just, that plastic is stapled onto that, and then we hung it up on the ceiling, and it doesn't cause any damage to the walls. And so that was one of our hallways. We made a great wall of china there. That was just...
Photo op, actually.
yeah,
They
it's a
could get
great little
behind
place
that.
for
Yep,
your
that was fun.
classes. That was stone paper, roll paper that you get at the decorating store on cardboard. And then we put all these little stage jacks behind it, and we made the great wall of china going down our hallway there to our older kids' classrooms. We did a European-inspired hallway. One of our favorite things that we did, one of our teenage girls spent like 3 days making this. We have a courtyard in the middle of our church, and it's just a lot of glass, and it's open. And she took tissue paper and electrical tape.
Yep,
And-
that's all that is.
Because you can tape all you want on windows, a little bit of Windex solves the problem. And so she spent a couple of days making all these different patterns of tissue paper and electrical tape to make that beautiful stained glass window. And then we used some, you still got those Kingdom Chronicles decorations, kind of like, Europe is known for having a lot of those medieval castles and things like that. So we used some decorations and stuff from there, just anything that you can think of.
You can easily get that stone. We made those banners out of felt, and we actually brought it all to give away. So somebody can
Yes.
get some of that stuff to make a European hallway if you want to.
So you can see at the top there, see the zip ties going up to the ceiling? So we put those little furring strips with eyelets, zip tied them up to the ceiling, stapled that plastic on those curtain rods that we made, and we'll reuse that. We've been using those curtain rods for years that we made out of wood. They're full of staples. They still work great. We use them for a lot of different things each year. When we went to Africa, we kind of focused a little bit on Egypt, and so we were able to make a very simple pyramid. We had some leftover palm trees. Like I said, keep those trees and stuff like that we just put up. And those are just paper boxes, or I think like paper boxes that you would get wrapped in brown paper, build a pyramid. And then we did some, just in our entryways to our classrooms, using some fabric. And again, those curtain rods that I showed you, just making a fun little entryway to our different classrooms and craft rooms by just hanging some fabric there. Just kind of added a little bit of pop to our hallways and everything like that. We did South America, which was one of our
Lot of fun.
favorite hallways.
And this was cool because we'd had some people who had been to South America on mission trips, and so they gave us a lot of their things that they had brought back, and we were able to make kind of like a little markets area store. And so if you have people who have special things, now I would suggest if they're really breakable, no. But this kind of stuff, it was fabric and stuff, the kids liked it. They were real things from those continents, and so we went ahead and put that up, and they just bought some of those little hanging, you can see up above the hats and stuff, you can see that they just bought some little hanging, kind of flat paper lanterns almost, to make that little marketplace area.
Yeah, and the vines that you see hanging from the ceiling there are the roll plastic tablecloth that have been cut to look like vines. Again, hung with our magic little curtain rod system. You can kind of see farther down the hallway there. We made an entryway to the classrooms just out of paper, roll paper. Again, just kind of, you can see it's kind of blue down there in the back of the hallway. But Barb and I made the videos for these hallways. We walked down the hallway and we talked about every single decoration in the hallway. And so jump on the YouTube page and you'll see that. One of the things that Barb mentioned, this is a great opportunity to highlight your church's missions. Okay, if you have missionaries from other countries, you can highlight your missionaries. Ours was, we went to Guatemala a lot and brought back a lot of stuff from Guatemala. We go to Malawi, Africa a lot, and had a lot of stuff that we could display from the folks in our church that had traveled there. And so our other test church, they highlighted all of their missionaries. They created You want to tell them about that, the
Yeah,
airplane?
so they created, just out of roll paper, they created what looked like the side of an airplane, of a big airplane, and they just put it on a wall. And they had like the little windows that you do for an airplane, you know. And they put a different missionary's picture in every window and put what country they were from. It was so cute. This is written up in the decorating decisions section. And then I thought this was really clever too. They also put their pastors, each of their pictures, because you know they're a local missionary, right? I mean, aren't we all? And so the kids really got that. That was really cool, and that's one thing they did with one whole hall. Just made it a huge airplane and put all those pictures of people they wanted to highlight.
So we hit those different continents as the kids were going through the hallways that they could see. There were some kind of like general areas. This was in one of our entryways to our church here. When we were getting ready for VBS, this kind of highlights some of the stuff you can buy. You can buy those globe paper lanterns and hang those up. There's the signs that I showed you earlier that you can, the yield, the detour, you know,
Did
the
you
things
show
like
them
that.
this?
Yep.
Okay,
And
with
then
the zip ties?
this was, we made our own little pennant hanging things. And this is, we printed map pictures on cardstock, double-sided, and then linked them together with zip ties. And then,
But you could get old
Yes.
maps, you know,
Yes.
or go to the
You can cut out
AAA
old
and ask
maps.
and cut them up and make kind of banners and stuff like that. Goes a long way. A lot of flags, a lot of maps. That can take you a long way. Go to AAA and get some, see if you can get
Yes.
some travel posters. That can take you a long way.
The
right?
reason why we made that is because we wanted that, and you could not buy maps in a linked together. You know, you can see these banners with the flags you can buy, and you can buy the checkered flags, but we couldn't find one with maps, so we just thought,
We
hey,
made
let's
our own.
make one. Why not?
Right.
And so that was pretty fun. Some of our craft room ideas, too, we carried the idea of the theme from the hallway into our craft rooms. And so here's one of our craft rooms that kept that South American, or no, this was, it was either South American or it kept with the Africa theme, I think. And so real simple ideas of hanging fabrics from the ceiling. They go together quick and easy and just add a lot of fun. And then you can reuse those from year to year as well. Put some, covered up the bulletin boards with some of the stuff that you can, I would say for you to use the stuff from the DVD-ROM and just cover up your bulletin boards and that might be in your rooms already. And so just some quick ideas there. And the craft rooms, our European craft room, we were able to print this on paper and put this up, and again with that stained glass kind of look, but this was just black and white paper that we put up over the windows. So that was a fun idea. We like to carry our themes in there into the craft rooms. Here was another craft room.
Just bought that at the teacher's store,
Yep.
that stuff, and just put it up on the bulletin board.
Yep, so we carried those themes in there as well. In our entryway to our worship center, we always like to kind of make, as you're walking in the worship center, a fun little thing. And so we kind of had the Easter Island thing going on there. Those are just cardboard, and there's those stage jacks are behind those, holding those up. Some greenery, but you see up there on the ceiling is the pegboard I was showing you, and these are just strips of cardboard painted on both sides, and it's kind of like a big mobile. And it's held together with fishing line zip ties. It's attached to the ceiling. The kids love to run through them, and we're okay
Right.
with that.
They move.
Yeah,
'Cause-
and-
yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like these big mobiles. We did 3 of them on each side, and it was a quick and easy way to kind of jazz up the entryway, as the kids would always just want to walk through there as they were going into the worship center that day.
And you don't need to paint every single one a black and white,
Mm-hmm.
Those have a lot of impact, but as you see, a lot of them are just, solid. And so that kind of just intermix it, and it makes it go really fast, and kids love it.
And it was kind of a lot of them were just scraps of leftover cardboard that we had from the other stuff that we were making for that. So some other easy things you can do is you can buy like vintage travel posters and hang them up. There are some that are printable as well. Our other pilot church, test church, they created little. This doesn't work in our layout, but they created for their check-in area little security metal detectors to walk through. I thought that was a really great idea because they did the same thing where they had the airport as they were checking in and everything. And I'll show you kind of our the two different styles of sets. Our set, this is what we did. We did a huge ziggurat, like I talked about. What we did, our style was big examples of different landmarks around the world. So we had a big Statue of Liberty, a big Leaning Tower of Pisa, a big example of China over there, and then a little bit of Russia there as well. And so we kind of had a bunch of these different landmarks made up really big. The other test church did some really cool stuff as well. They did a ziggurat, but it wasn't the big three-dimensional one. This is a lot like the scene setter is here, where they just painted their cardboard. It's one flat layer, and
It
then,
looks so 3D.
yeah,
but
it looks
really
3D,
is
but
flat.
it's not. And so just really great there. And then they came up with these ideas of taking the different continents that you see on these scene setters back there. They just made the continent, and then they added small versions of the landmarks on the continents. And so there's so many different ideas that you have. They stayed with, since the drama takes place in the jungle, they kept most of their stage down on the bottom just to fit with the drama stuff. And then they did some really great stuff with each different continent. It looks a lot like those scene setters over there on the wall. And so we just took the opportunity to highlight different areas. We did a little photo op welcome area at our church. Everybody wants to have a place where they can do a photo. So this is a flat ziggurat that we used kind of near our entryway with a big welcome sign up there in the corner, so families could get together and take a photo right in front of that and tell everyone around it about it. One of the things that's if you're doing the drama, there's a plane crash scene that takes place in there, and there's some good instructions on how to make that work, because it's got some moving parts to it. We got a video on the YouTube page on how to make that work, as well as some drawings and ideas in all of your different
That's
guides.
all you need, just that little nose of the plane. That's it, just to
Yeah.
give them the idea.
And one little note that I like to always mention, it's different from church to church, but one thing I always have to keep in mind, especially when decorating hallways, is we try to do a really good job at keeping safety in mind. And so when we do our hallway decorations, we want to make sure that we're not ever blocking people from being able to get out if there is an emergency. We also make sure that we don't cover up like security cameras, exit signs, things like that. So don't compromise safety for the sake of decorations. Make your decorations work around all those important safety things that you keep in mind. But
Well, we've also had people say, how do you keep the kids from tearing it down?
yeah.
So we always say that right off the bat to the kids, that we're not going to touch any of the decorations that are in the hallways, right? Unless you're allowed like the mission
like the
stuff.
little-
But we're not going to do that, and we kind of tie it into our contest system, the challenge thing that we've been talking about, so they know that that's going to affect the points of their team if anybody rips something off. And I can honestly say I don't think we've ever had anybody rip
Yep.
something down, ever.
Nobody's ever
So,
maliciously
just a good way
pulled
to-
our stuff down.
yeah.
Some stuff falls down on its own when you're not looking, but yeah. So, all right. So that was a whole bunch of information that we kind of threw at you. Remember, this YouTube page and the Pinterest page has got a lot of unbelievably great ideas as well.